stress. One little word that seems to take up a whole lot of space in our lives. It seems that we're met with varying forms of stress on a daily basis. Some good, some not so good. But what if we could remove some of that stress and actually harness some of it to create amazing things in our lives? In sharing my journey with you, I am fully transparent in letting you know that I'm not doing everything perfectly, and I am learning every single day. And that's why I am so excited to share this episode as we have Dana L. Black on the show. Dana is a mom of two beautiful girls, a nutrition and fitness coach, the owner of Constantly Varied Nutrition, and a certified holistic health practitioner, among so many other things. Dana's here to have the conversation about stress and how we can make some positive changes in our life starting today. Let's get started. Welcome to the Juggle is Real podcast. I'm your host, Andryanna. I'm a career-driven mom of three boys who went from burnout to finding balance, and I am on a mission to help other parents enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. What do you think? Are you with me? Let's get started. Welcome, Dana, to the episode today. I want to thank you so much for being here. And I want to get started right away. So let's get into it. Why don't we begin by you telling us a little bit about yourself and your expertise?
Oh, well, thank you first and foremost so much, Andryanna, for having me. This is a great blessing, and I'm so excited to be here. So a little tiny bit about me. I am a board certified holistic health practitioner. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I've got probably more certifications than I can mention, but mindset specific, health specific, all the things in terms of helping people optimize their health in general. And one of the reasons, or the main reasons, that I got into doing what I do inside of helping people was from my own journey. Very early on in age, I struggled with binge eating. And that kind of came up through high school, through college with me, and iterated over the years into other disordered eating patterns, disordered exercise patterns, and really brought me to a place inside of my health in my mid-30s where I was basically a postmenopausal woman, about 20 years too soon. And it was very clear at the time I was already in the nutrition and fitness space, helping individuals live a healthier lifestyle. But it became more clear over time that there were significantly deeper layers of the onion that mattered, and that weren't being talked about in the mainstream inside of the whole calories in versus calories out message that even continues to perpetuate media today. And that I needed to, through my own journey, be a voice for other women inside of what not to do and what to do instead to truly get and stay where they want to be. So it was a personal passion, but also a personal necessity at the same time that kind of led to the trajectory of where I am now and how I help people now. And it's probably one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever experienced in my life. So it's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And I think we were discussing this earlier, that it's, through that journey that you had to take, and, the journey that I'm sharing as well of dealing with that and overcoming it and living a daily life that focuses on health and focuses on you at the heart of all things, prioritizing yourself has made such a difference. And so by sharing your journey and by sharing all of the things that you've come to know through, your coaching and your practice and everything that you do, hopefully we can prevent people from going down that same road and having to, overcome those issues. So I have so many things that I want to talk about, but first and foremost, I think as busy working parents and moms, especially women, especially, stress is one of those daily parts of life. And I know, stress can be a good thing, right? Small amounts of stress. But when you're constantly under that stress where you're feeling like you are, never stopping and there's always something next and you're never taking that break. It kind of feels like, back in the cave days when the lion is chasing you at all times, right? Looking at that fight or flight on repeat, maybe you can speak to the effects of constant stress and how that really takes a toll on a person.
Yeah, and is such a fun topic because I feel like over the years, stress has been placed on this pedestal of being this thing that is insurmountable, that is extremely detrimental and must be avoided at all costs. And I think most of your listeners are like, just get rid of stress? What is that? That's not even a thing. And I'm 100% here to tell you that we can't get rid of stress. In the world that we live in today, short of hopping into WandaVision and going back to the beginning in the 50s, we've got stress. It's going to be here regardless of what we try to do, but it's how we think about it that is the game changer. And one of the things that I don't think a lot of people know or realize is that stress isn't just perceived stress. That, oh my gosh, I have too much on my to-do list today. Oh my gosh, the laundry has to get done and I have this deadline I have to meet and the kids have, X, Y, and Z events. And oh my gosh, I don't fit into that cocktail dress that I'm supposed to wear, to the gala this weekend or whatever. Our bodies are taking in stress from multiple different avenues every single day. And it's upwards of 150 plus stress inputs a day from all of these different sources. So sure, we have all of those perceived stresses, that sense of anxiety and overwhelm about what's on the schedule, that the never endingness of what it's like to be career driven and want to succeed there, but then also want to show up fully present for our families and be there for the events and have energy left over to care about the picture that your child is trying to show you, or them, act out a story or whatever. But we've got to also remember what other stresses are coming in here and compounding the problem. Am I not getting enough sleep every night? Because the less sleep I get, the more stress is on my system. Am I actually giving myself the grace and the space to feed myself? Because the less I eat, the more stress my body is under. What kinds of cleaning products and personal care products am I using? Because the lesser quality of those things, for crying out loud, look at how much we've been cleaning over the last almost 2 years, more so than even what we were cleaning, 5, 6, 10 years ago. And the amount of chemical toxin exposure that our bodies are taking in. Ladies, I'm here to tell you that that's a huge stress on your system, and it is taking precedence over other things that are happening. We're getting ready to fall back. That's a stress. Anytime we disrupt our circadian rhythm, and in the spring, it's worse. At least right now, we're about to gain an hour. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, I get an extra hour of sleep. But in the spring, when we lose that hour, the death rate increases 10%. Did you know that?
I didn't.
There's a higher instances of heart attacks. There's a higher instances of car wrecks, and catastrophic work accidents that happen because of sleep deprivation. I mean, think about it. The average American is maybe getting about 6 hours of sleep, and Canadian also is getting about 6 hours of sleep. You take away an hour and we're at the 5 hour mark. we're supposed to be getting somewhere between 7 and 9. And mamas, I hear you. I'm with you on this. My kids were horrible sleepers when they were little. So that whole sleep thing is outside of our control. And that's a whole different conversation. But man, anything and everything that you can be doing to get more sleep is great. But we've gotta remember too, right? The foods that we're taking in, if they're processed and sugar laden and Halloween candy and all of those kinds of things, those are also stresses to our system. So it's not just about the overwhelmed stuff, the stuff that we see, like, getting into traffic and all of that kind of stuff. There's so many other things that we have to be aware of that are adding stress to the situation, where this could be compounding and really becoming detrimental to people.
I think what you're saying is so important because we feel quote unquote stressed or we feel overwhelmed, but we may not necessarily know all of the reasons why. And so by being aware of the good stressors and the bad stressors, I think is a really good place to start. And just like you said, giving yourself the grace in knowing that most of it will be there. But what I think some of us may not understand is that the longer we ignore it, the worse it gets. And we talked about, hitting that brick wall. Can you tell us some of those ways that this constant stress can manifest, or how can it show up? Because I talked about it in a podcast episode a little while ago, and I said, at first you hear the whispers. Your body is starting to tell you, right? You hear these whispers, and don't let the whispers turn into screams, because at that point, it's not going to be a matter of, okay, how much can I accomplish today? Or what can I give up in terms of, if I skip lunch, can I get this extra meeting in? Or, if I stay up late, maybe I'll be able to do this, that, or the other thing. It's going to be, you're laying in bed or you are out and you are not able to accomplish anything. So maybe you can provide some insight and tell us those slow ways where stress is manifesting. How is it showing up, and how are our bodies trying to tell us to maybe take a step back or give ourselves a little bit of a break?
I absolutely love that analogy of the whispers to the shouts, because it does. It starts small and it starts slow, and things do. It generally tends to kind of start to snowball out of control until the next thing you know, you literally just got throat punched by life, and you're in bed. And we've got to, my thing is that symptoms are messages. And are you paying attention to yours over the course of time? Right. So, I mean, it can be as small as fatigue, cravings, the occasional like gas or bloating, the a headache randomly, maybe some cycle disturbances, brain fog in the afternoon, that feeling of like tired and wired, right? 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I could literally lay down and take a nap. But then by 8 o'clock at night, man, I've got my second wind and I'm, running like the Tasmanian devil kind of thing. Mood swings, irritability, when everyone kind of starts to disappear out of your life that week before you have your cycle, that's a sign. And it's not a normal sign either. When we could talk just about the stress symptoms inside of what creates PMS in general. And that could be an entire separate subject, because there's over 150 symptoms of PMS alone. And most of them come back and correlate directly to stress and hormonal imbalance. Lack of sex drive is another one. Inability to maintain body temperature. I'm washing my hair in the shower and I come away and I've got like clumps of hair, like very similar to not long after you have a baby, when, all of your hormones are disrupted and they're kind of going haywire. You're like, oh my God, why am I losing clumps of hair? If you're not, recently postpartum and you're starting to lose a lot of hair like that, that's not a great sign. Okay. If you use fertility awareness method, I know some women probably do, some women are probably still on hormonal birth control, but if you're taking your basal temperatures every day and your temperature in the morning is not at minimum 97.6 degrees all the time consistently, if we're dropping into those low 97s and even into those high 96s, that is an indication that your body is too stressed somewhere. Lack of hunger is another one. Like maybe you've been hardcore dieting throughout the years to try to get the baby weight off or try to, get back to high school look or whatever. If you are waking up in the morning and you're not hungry and you're not getting hungry until probably like noon every day, that's not a sign that you should be intermittent fasting or that intermittent fasting is working for you. That's a sign of metabolic adaptation. And your body is preserving the life that it needs to have: brain function, lung function, heart function. And it's slowing down other necessary bodily functions, metabolic functions, in an effort to keep you going. Okay. So we should be waking up hungry. That's a good thing. We should be having sex drive healthily every single day. Gosh, what are some other sleep disturbances? If you're if when you're in a stressful period of time, there's kind of two camps of people, right? There's the people who pass the heck out, and or who eat a lot when they're stressed. But then there's the other side. There's the people who don't sleep, don't eat. We've got our stress eaters and our stress starvers. God, there's some other things like inability to focus, feeling overwhelm and anxiety. If you're getting caught in that overwhelm loop, you're already too stressed out.
Wow.
And so it's kind of having to go back and like, oh, how did I used to function before I felt overwhelmed all the time, kind of thing. And it starts
You're
out with those little things, even before you get to like the giant flashing, Vegas style neon sign kind of action.
Exactly. And as you were taking us through these different symptoms and these different ways that stress shows up, I was thinking, okay, yep, felt that before. Check. Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember when that was a thing. And I know, like, for everyone listening, whether it's happening to you now or it's happened to you before, you can probably, really really understand where you're coming from, and not necessarily realize that, oh crap, that was the stress that was making my hair fall out, or that was the stress that was, making me feign a headache every night, when my husband was, rolling over in the bed. And I think understanding that the stresses are there, B, how they're showing up, this can maybe help us lead us into being able to manage it. And this is a huge topic in and of itself. And I think being able to, when we say the word balance and achieve balance, we put that sort of up on a pedestal of like, balance is perfection. And I always talk about like, remove the word perfection, right? Just take that out of your vocabulary. But when I talk about balance, it's feeling, removing some of those stresses so that you can get back to that feeling of like, oh yeah, things are feeling good right now. And I can have those pockets of time, there might be stress. I might be in a traffic jam. I might get late. It took me 3.5 hours to help my son with like a 12-minute project for school. I cannot tell you how stressful that was, but I know that the feelings are going to pass, and it's not constant and it's not always there. And I know that I can manage it. So for people who are coming to see you, people who have these symptoms, and are wanting to remove some of the stress from their life, try to achieve a little bit more balance in their days, what are some healthy ways to manage stress on a daily basis? Can you give us some starting off points?
Yeah. I think what's important and I love that you brought balance into it, because I'm pretty huge on balance as well. And I know that balance to a lot of people is a dirty word. And I think balance to me lives on a sliding scale, right? To where balance isn't necessarily my house is clean, everyone's showered, we're all eating perfectly, and life is good. Balance is knowing what the priority is for that phase of time, and allowing the other stuff to kind of not have to play as center of a role. And where I think that will kind of make a little bit more sense to people is how to, even before we can quote unquote manage our stress, we have to understand how to think about our stress, right? Because I call it harnessing. Stress is the stress response, right? There are three pieces of it. We've got the fight and the flight, but then we also have the famine. And the famine is what's going to keep us alive. It's what's got my squirrels outside my window foraging for the winter and like bringing everything into their house so that they've got something to eat. But it's what are the mechanisms inside of that serve my body a purpose? So what is the entire point of the stress response? It's to heighten our body's awareness of its surroundings and provide it exactly what is necessary in order to be able to come out of that situation on the other side intact, right? So when we experience a stress response, whether it is a saber-toothed tiger attack, or it is, finding our kid covered in an entire tube of toothpaste, who's been there?
Been there.
Yeah. Your body doesn't understand that one is going to kill you and one you're going to be able to laugh about later. They're the exact same. And what happens is we get a cortisol release and we get an adrenaline release that trigger several very important processes. Number one, we get vasodilation, which means our blood vessels open up, which means we're getting more blood, we're getting more oxygen, we're getting more carbohydrate or glucose from the liver to the periphery, to the muscles, to the structures in order to be able to either fight or run. We have acute senses. Every single thing inside of our senses, it turns into spidey senses. I can see and hear and think more acutely to be able to navigate that, fight off a predator, run, know where I'm going, all of those things. And I am able to breathe the way that I need to in order to be able to make that happen as well. Okay. But that's meant to be a 15-minute long process. And then we completely recover and we go back to like life as a cherub where it's all sunshine and roses and daisies. But it's 2021, almost 2022, and that doesn't necessarily happen. You're going to get hit with another email almost immediately. You're going to be getting called into a meeting at the same time you're cleaning up toothpaste. You will have gotten caught in traffic and been late for an important presentation, all of the things, right? We can go any one of a number of different directions with that. What ends up happening, though, is that we don't ever fully recover from that. And what we have been taught through the media over the years is that that is bad. And we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't go through that. We shouldn't allow that into our lives. We have to get rid of it at any cost. But as we've established, that's not possible. But what can I do differently from a mindset perspective in order to be able to calm that response and use that to my advantage, right? Think about when you've gone into an interview in the past and you start to notice that like you're breathing a little bit heavy, maybe your palms are a little bit sweaty, maybe you're like, oh my God, I'm sweating through my shirt, they're going to be able to see it, this is horrible, I got to calm down, I got to calm down, I got to calm down. And then the next thing you know, you're like freaking out even worse. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I totally bombed that interview, this sucks, whatever, and you go into that catastrophic place. But what if you said, oh, hang on, this is my stress response. And this is giving me exactly what I need to be able to respond to this situation with amazing fashion. I'm going to be able to have better brain function because my blood vessels are open and they're getting oxygen to my brain. They're getting carbohydrate to my brain. I'm able to think and remember and do everything better. My body is primed and able to handle this whatever gets thrown at me. And so instead of thinking about it as being a detriment, oh my gosh, I got to calm down. This sucks. I'm so stressed out. What can I do to kind of harness that and use it as a talisman, use it as a shield, use it as something that is going to bolster me inside of that situation. So that's how we harness. We don't have to think about it as being bad. We can think about it as being positive. And the literature and the studies show that if in the event, based on what side of those camps we're in, we can harm our health or benefit our health to the exact same degree. If I fall into that camp where I believe stress is the devil, I believe it's going to give me a heart attack, I believe it's, going to dysregulate my blood sugar and cause diabetes and all these other things, then it 100% will. But on the flip side of that, if I believe it to be something that I can use to my advantage, that it is a normal physiological process that I can choose whether or not I buy into, it can actually help my heart function. It can actually help me calm down and perform better in those situations, provided I'm not trying to force it. So that's the first thing that I want everybody kind of thinking about is when you're coming into something stressful, how am I thinking about this right now? Am I thinking about it as something that is going to be outside of my wheelhouse, more than I can take on, outside of my scope of knowledge or practice or something to that nature, and instead be something that is going to help me elevate myself and take on that situation in a really positive realm? Then I get to choose my outcome. And my body at that point is far more resilient to the effects of that stress response, from a hormonal aspect, from a blood sugar regulation aspect, from all the things. And it starts with how we think about it. So if you're in your house, let's say you're a stay-at-home mom, because I keep using all kinds of work outside the home moms. If you're overwhelmed by the amount of laundry that's kind of piling up around you, right? Like, big deep breath in, right? Cleansing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and be like, cool. Like, this doesn't have to stress me out. It doesn't have to be bad. It's just something fun that I get to do today. Maybe I can take my toddler and sit them down next to me and be talking to them about the laundry. And this is how you fold the laundry, and like teaching them what a t-shirt is and what pants are and what color. And this is how we match and all these kinds of things. So like, what can I do in those situations to see the bright side of it, so to speak? That's always, always, always the first place I go with people when it comes to managing stress, because if we can think about it differently, then it will not ever negatively affect us.
You're blowing my mind. You are blowing my mind, Dana. This is revolutionary. And I think this is an amazing way to think about how we're living our lives, right? Because we know stress will be there, and it's how we manage it. And what you're saying is essentially your thoughts become your actions, right? And that's something that we know about, right? We are working on that. And so when we choose, we might set a goal for ourselves, and we might want to, create thoughts that will achieve that goal. But thinking of that within the realm of stress and feeling overwhelmed, putting that mindset spin on it, I think it's just like an aha kind of situation here. Is let's put that same focus on it in a positive way to achieve the desired outcome that we want, which of course is to eventually be more calm, to feel better about ourselves, and to be able to manage our life on a daily basis in a more quote unquote balanced way.
I always tell people to go first, we look at that mindset of it, and then we look at what's actually on your to-do list for the day. When we're talking about living inside of the overwhelm, getting stressed out by all of those things that are kind of falling onto our plates every day, we have to look at how we're prioritizing what it is that we need to accomplish. And what I have found over the years is that we all generally tend to fall back on those activities that we are comfortable with, that we know how to do, that are easy, that are simple, that don't take a lot of bandwidth, that don't push us outside of our comfort zone. And then the overwhelm and the stress starts to come in because we continue to put off the things that really probably should be getting done first. And we're not, because they either scare the pants off of us or we don't feel as though we know how to do them. And so we kind of like, we look at it and then we look away, and then we look at it and then we look away. And so they never end up getting done. And so that's where I have found in terms of the people that I've worked with over the years about where that additional stress is coming from the perceived side. And so for those listening, what I would suggest or what I would challenge you to do is look at your to-do list. And are you ordering those things in such a way that's going to make you the most productive and give you those tiny wins of accomplishment that are going to bolster your self-esteem, your confidence, your productivity, that are going to kind of snowball into those other things versus, okay, I'm just staying over here inside of my comfort zone.
Thank you. Thank you for putting all of that into perspective for us. And thank you for doing everything that you do. It's truly appreciated. And I know you're helping so many people just in sharing your journey and in sharing all of this information. And that is today's episode. Oh my gosh. I want to start dropping y'alls. I want my Southern drawl to be coming out. That was so eye-opening, and I hope you gain some very valuable insights that you can implement today. If you want to learn more from Dana, if you want to check it out, she has a free group on Facebook that you can be a part of. Her website is constantlyvariednutrition.com, and all of her information from Facebook to Instagram is all located there. I'm going to drop it in the notes for this podcast episode so you can click through and you can check it out as well. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Juggle is Real podcast. If you liked today's episode, please rate it, write a review, and share with a friend who you think could use a little help too. Until the next episode, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Andryanna G. That's ANDRYANNAG. Until then, take good care.